Thank you, Father Jose, for the invitation and also for the prayer, for the nice words. And welcome to everyone on our panel and all who are listening. I'm glad that we are gathered for this beautiful discussion this afternoon. We pray that God, who is not far from us, God in whom we live and move and have our being, may be with us as the guide of our thoughts and the light that illumines our minds. The topic for us today is a self-evident topic. It is about options before the church at this time. We participate in this discussion with the belief that what we do here is important and vital for the present and the future of the church, the ecclesia. So our concern is ecclesial options ahead. It was already mentioned in the discussion by Father Naluvarayil that the main concern of the Gospels is the kingdom of God. As we move on from the Gospels to the Acts and the letters of Paul and other New Testament writings, we find a new matter of concern attracting a lot of attention: the church. Our past discussions in this forum on being concentric, Christocentric, X-centric, etc., have already warned us about the fallacy that can become part of our journey in faith as a community. A discussion about ecclesial options can, by itself, sound very orthodox and self-centered. However, I wish to place this paper as a part of our search and journey that starts from the one, is combined with many, and ends in one. I'd like to begin with a few reflections about what we may call Corona times. It is too early, I feel, to divide time as pre-Corona and post-Corona, or pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID times. Some say such a division will come. It will be marked as BC and AC. I do not wish to place any bet on it. Our task is to ask whether the experience of being forced to live in a manner to which we are not used in our modern times can teach us some lessons for our future. Here, I wish to note that the virus threat and the lockdown has forced upon us a lifestyle that is in many ways akin to the pre-wheel or pre-transport and pre-industrial, pre-petrol, pre-coal, and pre-pollution times. One thing that remained clear and thrived during this time is the role of the social media and means of communication. This has become so integral to our lives that in our times, a new question is almost a part of our well-being. Just as we are to ask someone, have you eaten today? It has become necessary to ask, Father Jose told the other day, we have to ask, have you a smartphone? Have you data, etc.? That many children face a new form of poverty as their parents do not have a smartphone, and as a result, they have to depend on generous souls to keep on with schooling. We also notice that the COVID virus and our attempts to contain the threat have manifested certain new lines dividing society into many classes. COVID affects people differently. As a result, we have balcony class and the street or the railway track class. We have fitness and cooking classes, the walking class, the clapping class, and the weeping class, the thriving class, and the dying class. As a faith-driven community, Christians have always responded to challenges with exemplary courage and openness. I thank God for such courage and heroism that has been manifested at this time as well on many fronts. As for the Catholic Church, this has involved everyone, starting from the Pope to the little child that shares her smile and smartphone, from the mighty donors to the poor woman who gave some money to me, requesting me to give it to someone in need. When I asked this great woman, poor woman, who challenged me with her generosity, why don't you give this money to someone whom you know? She answered me in all simplicity, Father, you know better who needs it most. I take this as the starting point for our discussion on ecclesial options ahead. The people trust the priests. That is a very good thing. But there is a corollary. Don't they trust themselves? Are our people able to make judgments for themselves? How can we prepare them for the same? Or shall we say, let them just trust us, depend on us, and enjoy the bliss? That leads us to the discussion about options. The title has a question, nostalgia or novelty. So let me just say a few words about what I mean about nostalgia and novelty. About nostalgia first. It is interesting to note that both the ordinary faithful and the clergy miss the community celebrations. So we have the title of this webinar also, Size of the Pews. There is an eagerness to return to many of our practices as it was in the past. If possible, we will try to do everything as it was in the past. So our nostalgia seeks to re-establish, relive, or repeat everything as it was before this lockdown. But then the COVID experience has also added a very painful question as a painful appendix to all the choices we make. How does it make me a good Samaritan? I wish to emphasize 2 points here. First, we must not forget that the Good Samaritan needed an inn to provide care for the wounded, and he needed some money to leave as advance. I say this as a warning note to ensure that what I continue to say may be understood in the right spirit. On the other hand, the spirit of the Samaritan challenges our notions of practicing poverty, the vow of poverty or the virtue of poverty, where the sacrifices of individuals only serve to add up to the accumulation of wealth for self-serving purposes of the organizations. Corona times may make us to ask a question about our approach to wealth and poverty. What is a novelty all about? If all that we seek or we are going to seek is to restore everything as it was or make everything as it was before the COVID lockdown came, unfortunately, we will emerge less wiser from an enriching experience. Or in other words, we might have emerged without learning anything from such a powerful experience. The wisdom of the church at this time involves evaluating and appropriating the right shift of focus and right improvement in our practices. It is here that novelty and new life will come in. Hence, some questions will become necessary starting points. I wish to propose 3 questions that can be asked in this regard. Before every decision, we could ask a question. What is a mission? What do we want to carry forward? Is it only certain rituals and traditions? Or is it a much greater vision of the gospel of faith or gospel of Jesus Christ? Second question behind our decisions could be, what is the purpose or the interest that drives our choices? Is it a matter of survival of the self, survival or maintenance of the structures? Or is it support for the believers, the faithful? And the third criterion or third question can be, what is the ultimate goal that we want to achieve? Is it certain humanistic, social goals that can be exactly verbalized and defined? Or is it a community that merges its dreams and visions with those enshrined in the words of the One, the Word who became flesh and dwelt among us? In making these choices, I thought of proposing a guide for our journey. And my thoughts go to Saint Joseph as a guide for the choices the church has to make at this time. The statue of sleeping Joseph on the table of Pope Francis is a powerful symbol and reminder for each one of us. I often wonder about the sleep of Joseph. Was it a deep sleep of trust or a sleep disturbed by dreams and commissions? The evangelist Matthew introduces Joseph with the qualification, a just man or a righteous man. The Greek word is dikaios. The evangelist informs us like this. Verse 19 reads, her husband Joseph, being a just man and unwilling to put her to shame, resolved to divorce her quietly. I'd like to first of all note one thing. Joseph, whom Matthew presents, is not righteous exactly in the same way as Zachariah and Elizabeth are in Luke. Luke speaks of Zachariah and Elizabeth as righteous. He also says that they were living blamelessly before the Lord and observing all the ordinances and commandments of the Lord. Saint Joseph is different. And I believe Saint Joseph helps us to clarify our notions of the chaos. That is, our notions about being just, being righteous, and what is justice itself. Saint Joseph was just in a new way. Joseph has resolved to obey the law, but with some modifications. He has decided to send Mary away, but quietly. In deciding not to follow the law literally, but to allow the spirit of the law to prevail, Joseph becomes a challenge to our traditional understanding of righteousness or justice as the literal obedience of the law and literal compliance 100%. Joseph is not an example for literal obedience of the law. Joseph stands as the guardian of Mary at the portal of the Gospel of Matthew, as a herald of a new way of being righteous. The child to be born would later invite people to follow him with a new saying, "For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Saint Joseph leads us by example towards a new way of being righteous. Joseph is a courageous man who stands up to differ. Gospel of Matthew, the only gospel that uses the word ecclesia, and the only gospel that describes to us in detail the experiences of Joseph, tell us that after every dream, Joseph got up and did as he was instructed. We read that in Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 24, 2:14, 2:21, and 2:23. Picture of Joseph moving with Mary and the child to Egypt is painted with live images on the streets of India today. It is only natural that in the near future, a greater number of dying, destitute, and orphans might be spotted all across India. The lament of Rachel will break the silence of many villages of our country. The sense of justice will disturb our slumber. It is already time to wake up and start the walk towards the families that flee towards the safety with the bare minimum of goods and even less of respect and regard. Yuval Noah Harari's book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, has a chapter with the title Justice. The title is followed by an explanatory subtitle. I quote, "Our sense of justice might be out of date." I think we also need to ask our question about our own sense of justice and righteousness. The church has to wake up from the slumber induced by lockdown and disturbed by COVID-19 into a new world with courage to redefine and relive justice and righteousness preached by Jesus of Nazareth. The challenges and options. A seminar like this can involve us in rethinking about some of our vital concepts. How should we select these areas? There are so many areas into which we have to look. I just like to propose here some norms that we have to follow or we have to keep in mind. I like to propose two indicators today. One indicator that we come across very powerfully nowadays in this digital age of communication is AI, or artificial intelligence and categorization. Artificial intelligence, AI, helps us in lots of ways. It is said that as AI becomes more and more diffusive, it will be computer engineers who will control the future of humanity. It is wrong to think that politicians are in control already. It is proper to say that politicians who know how to control media and use AI are in control. AI, artificial intelligence, classifies society according to certain categories. And the criteria for the division is market value or profitability. So if I may apply this in a very, very simplistic way, I would say society can be divided according to the market value today into three categories. Category 1, the base category, those without phones or computers. As far as AI is concerned, they are unimportant, a kind of primo homo sapiens. The second category will be those with old phones. The AI people will look at them as the wonderful market to be exploited, to be educated, and to be captured. And then we have the third category, those with the smartphones, who are ready to be targeted and caught. The last class, those with the smartphones, we might find already subcategories. People are already being classified. The pop-ups that jump at you on your mobile screens inform us about the class into which you have already been put by the AI. Just watch out what are the different messages, advertisements you are getting day by day. And maybe it will tell you into which group you have been already put by the AI. Having looked at this, I want to ask the question, how will we, the church, organize groups and cater to them, keeping in mind the social reality of AI and its influence on everyone? I propose that believers, priests, religious, faithful, everyone must first identify their own groups, as I said earlier, and then ask the question as to how they can help those of their kind or call attention to people of their own class. Here I wish to say once again that the future of the church is the youth. And for us, it is important to be aware of the different ways in which our youth are being targeted and classified and led. And we as a church need to prepare to accompany these groups with sufficient support and guidance. And we need to organize and mobilize our own resources towards that end. These targeted groups, the young ones, they are very, very important for the future. So we must understand where they are being led. Sometimes they will all be led by what is called the Superman, the Homo Deus, the Superman who controls the economy. while the agnostic world would call for the enthronement of the Superman as the man God, Jesus of Nazareth, the man of God, offers a different possibility. He envisions the growth of everyone into a child of God, Homo Dei. So maybe we have these clashing symbols, Homo Deus as proposed by social scientists, and Homo Dei that is proposed by Jesus of Nazareth. In the second case, the market analysis will have to be replaced by the gospel dynamism. The question will not be what is the profitability, but what is the grace required? The greatest obstacle to this transition is the crisis of faith. We will analyze this as the problem of the post-truth society. So the second criteria is the post-truth society. With all the progress that we claim in our times, our era is called post-truth era. The greatest victim of this development is loss of trust or faith. Man loses faith in one another and ultimately in God. On the human level, individual Christians and churches as the collective expressions have at times failed the trust trial. As long as believers and churches are human, errors are natural to it. And where there have been errors, humble acceptance of mistakes is the best way to regain trust. On the theological level, individual Christians and churches are missionaries sent to preach the word. When the disciples tend to become greater than the master, the very message is denied by life. The first commandment, you shall have no other gods, will have to be read in relation to many of our absolutes. On the pastoral level, we look at Jesus as one who judged everyone with only one criteria. He who hears my word and believes in them, or he who hears the word and acts accordingly. As the church continues the journey, there will be need for redefinitions and change of priorities. We pray for a new Pentecost experience and new inspirations as we enter the next phase of our journey with faith and optimism. I wish to end with a quote from Peter Taylor Forsyth. Unless there is within us that which is above us, we shall soon yield to that which is around us. I repeat, unless there is within us that which is above us, we shall soon yield to that which is around us. Thank you for your patient listening. I hope to clarify some of the ideas I have presented during our discussion. Thank you for the patient listening. God bless you all. Thank you.